So since yesterday was Kobe Bryant's birthday, I thought maybe I should make a video for you guys since I've been putting this off for like a long time and I don't know why, probably because I'm uncomfortable. Anyways, I asked some of you if you wanted to see me make a video about how I lost like 10 to 12 kilograms for about 4 or 5 weeks, which is like a month. And to my surprise, most of you, actually interacted and said, yeah, we want to see it, blah, blah, blah. So here's me making a video about it. So on the thumbnail, you guys saw two pictures, which was of course the before and after picture. On the left, it was the before, on the right, it was the after. What I didn't want to do, which a lot of people do, is take the before picture where I'm like, I don't really give a damn about the picture, like how I look, I'm like relaxed. And then on the right side, mostly people just actually flex, I didn't want to do that, so it's me like relaxed, so I haven't flexed anything, just so you guys can see how I actually look, so when you compare the two. So in terms of what I actually changed, here's what I did. Like mathematically, this is how it looks. So all of this is in centimeters. As you can see, I got my waist, arm, quads, calves, and chest. I got two measurements for waist just because as men, we predominantly, that's where we store weight when we usually gain it. So I measured first my navel and then two fingers maybe below it, something like that, just so I can see, the difference. So I got 93, 91 for that. Also, I measured my arms, as you can see, 36, my quads, my calves, my chest. At the end of week 5, I got more than 10 centimeters below my initial measurements, which to my surprise, I didn't lose any muscle weight. I actually gained some. As you can see, even though it's like not a lot, just like a centimeter or two, this is because it's my left arm and right arm, I believe. And then my quads, I didn't gain as much, but still I gained a couple of centimeters here and there, which is, as I said, to my surprise, because usually when you lose weight and like, especially like how I did it, which is I cut like a lot, you actually lose muscle. And in my case, I actually gained some, which I believe is due to how I worked out and how I ate. Also, if you do everything exactly like I did, which of course you don't have to because it's like really extreme, but if you do, you probably lose a lot more weight, especially if you're like overweight or maybe obese, just because people who have more weight to lose usually lose it a lot faster. But enough of that, just so you know. So first off, what we need to realize is weight loss is fairly straightforward. What I mean by that is not complicated unless you have some, pre-existing condition or some health issue that might make it difficult for you to lose weight. But when we look at it in basic terms, it's basically energy in and then energy out. Energy in is whatever food you basically consume, and then energy out, first off, you got your BMR, which is your basic metabolic rate. Think of this as the calories you would need to, for basic survival. Even though, for example, how maybe you would just lay in bed all day and you would still consume those calories just because you need to sustain yourself as a human being. Then next up is your TEF, which is your thermic effect of food. This is how much your body burns in terms of calories when it tries to actually digest the food you've consumed. Next up, you got your TEA, which is your thermic effect of activity, which is the calories you burn when you, for example, do cardio, do any sort of like weightlifting, basically your training sessions. Next up is your NEAT, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is basically what you would do, on your any day, basically just walking around or, going somewhere, cleaning. Very simple stuff that you would not normally count as an exercise. That's what it's called, like that. So in terms of how this would actually work for everyone, should be obviously you need your energy and this is what you eat. And then you got your BMR, but in short term, we shouldn't really focus on that because we cannot actually change it in the short term. Then we got your thermic effect of food, which is also not something I would say you should focus on just because the calories are not that much that you would need to count them. It would just be extra work and fairly unnecessary in my opinion. So that leaves us with your energy in, which should equal your NEAT and your thermic effect of activity. So what we can do in this video is help you develop some helpful habits. I can give you some tips, some strategies on how you can actually lose that weight. You can do whatever I did and it would be guaranteed to make it faster. Like it would really speed up the process, but I would say you shouldn't really have to go that extreme if that's really not that important to you or you're not in that big of a rush, which is completely fine. So the first thing you can do is just go straight to Google, type in calorie calculator, and then following the steps of putting your weight, height, and age, and also your activity level, where you also know it's an option to calculate your BMR. After hitting calculate, you can see the amounts of calories you can remove from your diet and how much weight you can approximately lose each week by doing so. I would say here everyone should be honest with themselves and ask, do I really need to lose that fat, and how fast do I want to lose it? I would say for 70% of people, it would be best if they stick to 200 to 300 calories per day, which would mean that it would be easier to stick to. However, what I did was I went to the kind of extreme. I went to 1,000 just to see what it would be. It worked, but here's the thing with that. First off, the picture you're seeing on the screen describes the relationship between calorie intake and physical activity. So obviously at low levels of activity, your calorie intake is sort of increased. And as you increase activity, your appetite control improves. However, when you increase the activity to the extreme, this is where it gets bad, because coupling that with the extreme deficiency of like 1,000 calories and the extreme increase in activity, this is where I was hungry all the damn time. The second issue with that is muscle retention and muscle growth even. Most of us know that when you're trying to lose weight, you're not really looking at the scale and see, you're trying to lose 20 pounds, 40 pounds, or whatever. You're not just looking at the numbers, you're trying to actually see your body change and look good. What makes you look good is actually your muscles. That gives you the curves, the figure, and overall look of your body, not just the number on the scale. Well, anyways, being in such a huge caloric deficit of like 1,000 calories usually makes this real hard, which would mean that, for example, a person who is, eating a gram or 1.2 grams per body kilogram would mean that that person could easily retain his current muscle mass and in some rare cases even gain some. However, when you're in a caloric deficit, that really is not the case. This is why usually people lose some muscle weight along with their fat. So I would recommend for anyone trying this, even if it's not up to like 1,000 calories, even though it may be like 200, 300, maybe 5, you would stick to at least 1.6 up to 1.8 and 2 grams per kilogram in some cases, just so you make sure that along with losing your weight, you're giving enough protein for your body to recover and then even gain some muscle mass, just so you're not just walking around looking skinny fat and actually have some muscle under your skin. The second thing I want to talk about is supplements. I just want to get this out of the way. Supplements are called supplements because they are supplements for healthy eating habits. They're not a substitute for one. So what that means is you should not expect to, take a pill or some type of powder whenever you feel like having a six-pack or whatever, right? So I can honestly say that if you're not looking to become a professional athlete of some sort, you don't need any supplements at all. However, the 2 supplements I took for that 1 month, and keep in mind that I was building this house with my dad at the same time. I was working out twice a week. I was working 2 jobs, and I took supplements just because they were convenient. What I took was just simple whey protein and also some vitamins. What whey protein did for me is basically just because of me being committed to so many things, I didn't have enough time to get the amount of protein we talked about a minute ago, just because it's such a huge amount. So it was really convenient for me to have like 25-30 grams of protein in a shake, just have it in 2 minutes on the go, and be over with, stay on track with my protein, then having the time to sit down and have a proper meal. And with the vitamins, it was the same thing. I didn't have enough of variety in my food where I would get whatever I needed in terms of vitamins, so I just took a couple here and there as prescribed, and just gave my body whatever it needed to make sure it's healthy and functioning. And trust me, even though vitamins are not something that you will notice to help you in the long run, they really make the difference. Trust me on that. Third, this is where your macros come in. No matter what anyone says, yes, it's of course beneficial for you to count every calorie, just because you will know what your body is going to use as fuel. You will know everything that goes into it. But let's be honest, it gets real tiring real fast to just know everything, every single calorie you're consuming, whatever it's protein, carbs, fats, vitamins. It just gets a bit tedious sometimes, and honestly it can turn off a lot of people when turn away a lot of people away from fitness. So instead, what you can do is three options. First up, you can be someone like me. I'll never cry about eating the same thing every day, or even eating the same thing a couple of times every day, which means that I know what I'm gonna eat every single day, more or less. For example, I have a breakfast every morning that I've not changed in months, and then I'll have 5 or 6 meals that I would rotate throughout the day, you know, depending on what's available. That means that I know every single thing that goes into my body. I know like the calories, the proteins, everything about it. So it's not an issue for me. Also, I've memorized most of the proteins, carbs, fats, and whatnot for most foods, which is, I don't know. So that helps too. The second way is you the second way is for you to be extremely disciplined, which would mean you will go and, I don't know, shop on Saturday and Sunday. You will know every single ingredient that will go to every single meal that you're gonna have throughout the week. And then you're gonna buy all of those, make sure they're all calculated. You'll go and meal prep for the whole week, ideally, because sometimes we get a little bit lazy. But that's not that fun, is it? Yeah, it sounds kind of boring and tedious, I know. So here's the thing. The third thing you can do is actually probably the easiest thing that can help you. So imagine a plate. I'll probably put up a picture of some sort. Imagine a plate. Just divide that plate by half, and there is your protein. Just put, I don't know, any lean meats, protein sources in there. That's going to be your protein. Make sure every time it stays the same way. Then the remaining half, I would prefer for you to cut it in 2/3, which would mean that a third of your plate should contain carbohydrates, which would mean, I don't know, pasta or whatever food you may choose to put there. And then 2/3 of that half would be some sort of, I don't know, for example, healthy fats. However, I would play around with the second half a bit more. For example, if I'm having some roasted chicken, pasta, and some yogurt before I go, I would prefer to have more pasta than yogurt, just so I can get some extra carbohydrates for my workout, which, you know, would help in my training. For example, just put in healthy protein, healthy carbohydrates, healthy fats. Just put them into Google. I'm just spitballing here. Just find some foods, put them on your plate, real easy. You don't have to count them. So now that we've talked about your nutrition, let's get into your training. As I said, I've worked out twice a day for this whole month. So ideally, I would expect for you to do sort of the same thing. Let me show you what I mean by that. So what I did was I would have a cardio session or a basketball workout, some sort of routine in the morning, which would be still cardio oriented, of course. But then again, I would have my resistance training, which is your, you know, weight training in the evening. Ideally, I would expect you to do the same. If not, I would expect you to have like a 20-minute cardio session, more or less, before every workout and not after. Never do cardio after a workout. It's complete. That's for another video, okay? I'll get into that. Never mind. So just don't do cardio after a workout. Do it before. Give yourself 20 minutes, or even better, do it like I did and do it in the morning. That does not mean that you should work out for 2 hours a day like I did, or 4 or 5 or 6. No. As I said, just keep your cardio for like 20 minutes. Do it before your workout, and then your weight training workout should not be more than 40, even 60 minutes, so an hour of that, which, let's be honest, just the nutrition tips alone, just being in that caloric deficit and whatnot, it should be enough for you to lose weight. But this is where we take the extra step. So you already have your caloric deficit in place. Now we go into the thermic effect of activity, your TEA. So this is where you get your weight training, your cardio, for that extra, I don't know, 100, 200, 300, maybe even more, depending on the intensity of your training. Those extra calories that you burn off, that will help you towards your goal. So to summarize, you can split up your cardio and weight training. Just do it however you want. For example, as I said, do it 20 minutes cardio, 40 minutes weight training, or even up to an hour. Or you can do half and half, for example, 30 minutes each. Or you can do, for example, one day you may want to do your cardio 20-30 minutes, and the other day you might want to do your weightlifting. It is still perfectly fine, guys. But let's talk specifically about your cardio right now. So what I would need from you to do is stay away from steady state cardio, like at all costs. Maybe if it's like helpful to your sport, but other than that, I would prefer for you to do high intensity interval training, which is HIIT training. Everyone can Google that. It's a really simple concept. What HIIT training means that, for example, you'll either have a treadmill or you will go outside, or you can do it on a bike, any sort of cardio actually. And then in simple terms, you'll treat it as an interval of sprint and then an interval of rest period. So you would have your 15 seconds of sprint. If, for example, you're running outside, you sprint for 15 seconds, then for either 15, 30, 45, maybe up to 60 seconds, you would rest. But in that rest period, ideally, you would either jog, fast, slow, whatever you're capable of. Just make sure it's enough for you to rest and then do another sprint. Or you can walk, it doesn't really matter. Just, stay active, don't stay in one place. And then you'll just rotate those two. As I said, 15 seconds sprint, and then whatever, rest period you give yourself. When I say rest, just remember, stay active, and then go and repeat those. Sprint, rest, and then you will do those ideally for at least about 5 times. And given, for example, with your warm-up and cool-down, if you do it 5, 10, 15 times, that would mean your cardio session is more or less between 50 and 30 minutes, which is completely ideal. As I said, it's way better in terms of fat burning and actual, even it helps with muscle development more so than steady state cardio. Also, steady state cardio is basically just hopping on a treadmill or whatever sort of cardio you're doing and just doing it for like a prolonged period of time where it's really not that hard. So just keep in mind that the HIIT training is way more beneficial than that one. And then the second part of your training is your resistance training, your weightlifting. What I would say here that anything you do is beneficial, but so whatever you're working on, it may be hypertrophy, it may be maximal strength, it may be power, or even some sort of, cardio-based weightlifting, it would still be beneficial than doing nothing, obviously. But ideally, I would suggest you focus on the first two, meaning your hypertrophy or your maximal strength training, where most of your exercises would not be, isolating in nature, meaning that most of them will be compound exercises where you utilize your core more often than not, where you work in different planes of motion, you engage and use different muscles, not just one. But unless you actually hire me as your personal trainer, that goes for the nutrition part as well. I'm not going to be able to tell you what it would be the best thing for you to do in terms of your nutrition and your training, what would be most beneficial for you and your specific body needs. So remember NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is where we need to talk about that and how you need to build some sort of habits once you start doing everything correctly. So let's say you eat however much you have to eat to lose weight, so your nutrition is in check, your weightlifting and your cardio is in check. So the next thing you have to do is be conscious of the fact that your body is going to try and stop you from burning those calories. It gets sort of smarter. Just because you're burning all those calories and then you're not eating enough calories, it's like, man, I can't do this. Let's be lazy. I don't have enough energy. And then you start to become lethargic. You get lazy. You don't want to do things throughout the day just because of, training right and eating right. What you can do to combat that is, for example, I had an app on my phone, which I'm guessing everybody has it on their phone, that tracks your steps. And you can set up, for example, a daily goal, like 2,000 steps, 5,000, 7.5 or 10K a day. And then that would be your goal throughout the day. And if you do that, you will know that, I'm not being lazy. You're actually acknowledging the issue. And now that you know that this issue might come up and probably will come up and you know how to address it, this is, just an easy way for you to jump over that hurdle and continue on your path towards weight loss. Last but not least, we got to talk about something that probably did the biggest difference for me, which is intermittent fasting. What intermittent fasting is, you're basically not eating, consuming any calories for about 16 hours a day, which your sleep is included in those. And then for 8 hours a day, you eat, whatever you need to eat, whatever is in your diet. But don't be on a diet. If you're on a diet, that means you're going to be off it, which means you're not having something consistent in terms of, healthy eating habits. If it's not consistent, that means it's not going to work for you. Never mind. Just keep that 8-hour window. Make sure you eat in that 8-hour window. Make sure you fast for those 16 hours. That would probably mean for most people, and it did for me as well, you're probably going to skip a meal, which is 400, 500, 600 calories, which is going to be real helpful, as you can imagine. But also it has a lot more benefits than that. And actually I can make a video about it, and that's it. Yeah, I'll keep it for another time. But yeah, make sure you do that. I promise you it's going to make a whole lot of difference. Alright guys, I think this is the best I can do in such a short time period. I try to keep this video as short but as informative as possible. That being said, I think you guys can notice that I didn't explain everything as well as I could. That is because, as I said, I tried to keep this short. But I'm thinking of actually doing another video so you guys know that you're just not, following some advice from some guy on the internet. This is what I said is completely scientifically backed up, and it's 100% going to work for you. I mean, I'm sure if you want to try it for 4 or 5 weeks, you'll notice the difference yourself. If you need a professional to come in and help you with whatever you need, training program, nutrition plan, I'm here for you guys. Just message me on social media. I got you. And comment down below about any other topics you want me to make a video about. I'll be happy to look at them. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video and taking the time. I really hope I gave you something to think about. I really hope I helped you. That being said, this was Cold Red from Cold Red Training. I'm out. Cold as fuck. Look at that, man. Black Mamba!